my friend. Welcome to this study. I'm so glad you're here today. It's very good to see you, to spend some time with you, to relax to some nice sounds. January is a time when we usually try to organize ourselves. We organize our space and our time and try to get some semblance of order in our lives. And this is a good thing because it gives us some sense of security, some sense of confidence, knowing what's happening, what we plan to accomplish, what we have to do, and it lets us look forward to the future. You might be able to hear this evening the wind. It's very, very blustery. And here in southern England, we get these westerlies that come from the Atlantic and blow clouds and all kinds of beautiful cloud formations, rain, fresh air. It's a very nice start for January. And so today I will continue by request the time management video that I made last month. It might have been November. And do a little bit more detail on scheduling. I'll give you some tips, tricks, and show you what works for me because I have a rather erratic schedule. Different things from month to month, week to week, and so I have to be very organized. And if you just want to listen, we'll have lots of pencil sounds, paper. I think I'll use this pencil too just because I like the sound it makes on the paper. So I have lots of writing sounds and a bit of soft chatting. Just a nice and easy Sunday video. So we'll start with this page out of a planner. And some of the things I like to use, these come from a great place called Stationery Pal. And they're very affordable and they ship all over the world. And I've bought things from them before. These are little strips. They are kind of like highlighter because you can almost see through them. And you can also use them as bookmarkers. I use sticky notes and a notepad, pencils, and let's see. Oh, do you hear that? I'm not going to edit that out this time because I think I'd like to tell you about that. That's my old collie, my rough collie. He's almost 13 years old and he can no longer come up the stairs by himself. So he's downstairs at the moment and he's asking me to carry him up. So I'm going to go and carry up my old boy, and when I return, we'll talk about schedules. There we go, we're all settled. I'm a bit winded because he's not a small dog. He weighs a little over 20 pounds, which is fine unless you have to carry it up some stairs and in a rather awkward position as well. So here we are with our schedule. I always like putting schedules together on the same day every week because it allows me to look ahead at the week as well as look behind and do sort of a summary or a recap of what happened over the last week, what I did, what accomplishments I've made, what progress I've made on projects, and my plans ahead. And if you remember last time, because I have lots of different projects going on, I use notebooks and folders to contain that material so that I don't have to go and look for the material. And if I have books that are related, I'll keep them all together. And the other thing I do is make sure that the smallest time segment I use is 30 minutes. I'll allot a minimum of 30 minutes for something. Even if something takes 10 minutes or 15 minutes or something, I will have 30 minutes allotted so that I can be sure that whatever it is, I've finished it off nicely and I'm calm in my head before I move on to the next thing. So the first thing I would do when I'm looking at the week is firstly write in pencil. I said I was going to use this one because it's got a softer lead and it makes a nice sound on the mic. Let me move the mic closer. There, and you can probably hear the wind as well. If you like that, I can open the window, but we might get a bit of rain in, and that probably wouldn't be good for the papers and books at the moment. But I must say, just to interject here, that it's so nice to have you here in the study on this blustery night. So, I'd find a piece of paper. Here I'm going to use this little notepad. It can be A4 size, A5. It could be in your notebook. You can keep a notebook of it. Write out your tasks for the week or the fortnight. So when I plan ahead, I usually plan in 2-week blocks or fortnightly blocks, 14 days. You can do this in 1-week blocks if you like, but probably no more than 3 weeks ahead because things tend to change. So just looking ahead for 2 weeks, say we've got long-term projects. So we're going to write our long-term projects, and they're going to be Project A, which will probably require research, multiple steps, things like that. And other long-term things will be something, let's say, with a deadline. So we're going to call that Project D that has an imposed deadline. This one, we'll say it has our own deadline. And then we've got something regular that happens. So it could be a class you're taking, it could be a course, different volunteer projects you're in, something that happens regularly, maybe an online course and you want to devote so many hours a week to that. So we'll put course there. And as far as short term, these are going to be tasks. Things that don't require multiple steps, or if they do, they can be finished rather quickly within 1 or 2 hours. So let's say we've got finance. I was going to say financial something or other, but because that's a broad topic. Say you're doing your personal finances, your business finances, educational finances. Alright, so that's something that maybe you want to address once a week, twice a week. I actually have allocated Mondays for that only. It's because my mother had a stroke many years ago, and she, for 10 years before she died, I managed all of her very extensive affairs, financial affairs, property and everything. And at the same time, I had a young family. I was taking care of my 2 sons, and I had moved from Sydney to England, and it was just enormous stress. So what I ended up doing was allotting all of this to Monday, or confining any kind of financial planning, all of the organizational affairs surrounding that estate on Monday. So that way the rest of the week was clear to do all of the other things that I had to do in my work and personal life. And if anything came in the post or message or something during the week that fell into that category, I would put it in the Monday box and allot time on Monday to deal with that. So that was one of the best things I did to reduce stress when there's so many things to be done, because that can be a source of anxiety if you have lots of things. Other tasks, short-term types of things, can include, let's say, if you're volunteering, you might have to prepare material. We'll put prepare M for material. Reading with students, working at a library, animal shelter. I'm just guessing things off the top of my head. There's probably a million different things here. So preparing something, writing speeches, things like that. Other things that are short are one-off tasks, like, for example, put away Christmas decorations because it's January, right? Something like that. Or, what shall we say, gardening. Maybe there's something in the garden that needs attention. It's a sort of a one-off or once a season type thing. So there's a few examples of some of our tasks and projects, long-term things. The other thing we want to do is, if we have these long-term projects, we want to make sure we know what steps are involved in them. Sometimes you might know, sometimes it might be less clear. Maybe you're just starting on a project. So if you do know, you're going to say one thing, exactly what it is, two things, three things, all right? So, for example, this project A, we're going to be going to the library, looking up a list of resources that we've got. B, we're going to be probably, let's say, translating something for it, particular text. All right, I'm making this up, so you know me in this study by now. So we've got several tasks involved with this. All right, good. And if you have to travel, again, if you are going somewhere, that's going to be a one-off task, meetings or something, right? So that's what we have to do. Let's look at this in terms of a fortnight or 2 weeks. Maybe this one we'll do once a week. So that will be our Monday task. So with the planner that I use, I like to have the hours written in. Sometimes my schedule's more rigid than others. Sometimes sometimes I'll have a stay-at-home day where I'll do a lot of things online and things can be carried out without leaving the house. Sometimes I'm underway quite a lot, going from here to there. So let's say Monday is going to be a stay-at-home day. So I'm going to write that down there. Finance. I use this side of the planner, of the page, because I like one day a page. I used to use week pages, but now I have so much going on every day, it's a lot nicer to just open to that day and have it flat on the desk and see what's going on there. So the things I have to address that day that I know by the end of the day I want to have done these things. All right, what do I need to do on Monday? I think we know that that's a Monday task, and we've got, so preparing for some kind of short-term meeting, putting away Christmas decorations, gardening, and maybe a meeting. So let's say we have a meeting, we've got a fixed appointment. So we'll put that there. And that's going to take about an hour. So between 2 and 3 p.m. on Tuesday. So I'm going to block off half an hour either side. And that gives me enough time to not only travel. If it takes you longer than half an hour, put half an hour between when you finish traveling and your meeting, if you possibly can. It gives you time to collect your thoughts and in your mindset, especially if you're driving somewhere, because it's never good to drive somewhere and you're in that driving mode and then arrive where you have to do something that's completely different than driving with other people. Your mind is not quite shifted over yet. So you want to give yourself that time. Get a cup of coffee, unpack your stuff, that sort of thing. So we've got this section on Tuesday at 2 o'clock that is fixed. So that's a meeting. Got that done. Gardening, we'll wait to put that in. And we've got some long-term things. Alright, so the fixed things we know. Let's say we've got an online meeting at 1 o'clock on Monday. And again, we'll allow half an hour either side. That gives us time to prepare, get in the right mindset for the meeting, and afterwards to recap, maybe make me take some notes, send somebody something, just finish up after the meeting's been closed. There we are. So those are our fixed things. the rest of it is up to us how we're going to allot this time. So some days I like to write down times for things. Other days I'm a little bit more flexible. So just as an example, let's say Monday is going to be more rigid and Tuesday is going to be more flexible. In the morning, when I come to the desk and sit down, I want to be able to focus on what I need to do. Setting time slots for that, especially if you're working from home, is very helpful. So let's say I'm going to get up, get myself dressed, have breakfast and all of that, and sit down at the desk by 9 o'clock. So the first thing I always do every day is allot half an hour for correspondence. Unless I need more time, then I'll allot an hour. Correspondence is a way to get yourself in the mode of getting your business done. It can mean sitting down and writing letters, social correspondence, because that's important. But it can also mean making any phone calls that need to be made, answering emails, okay? All of those little fiddly little tasks. And I always like to start the day with that. That way, it's not hanging over my head the rest of the day. And if I'm involved in a project or a task, I am not thinking, oh, I better email somebody and I better check my email for that. So that's the time when I do that. So whatever time I start, I come to the desk and address that first thing. That's my time to address any emails. In the same way, there's a certain time in the evening where I absolutely stop checking emails and don't look at them anymore. And they save for the next morning. So that's if you're really stressed, and that's a good way to just say, okay, stop. You need some time away from this. And you're much better at dealing with it when you're not stressed. I think we all are. So, now we've got to look and see what's got a deadline. We know Project D has a deadline. And it's a long-term thing. But we need to spend lots of time on it because, say, our deadline is in 2 weeks. So I need to allot 2 hours almost every day of the week. I'm going to say 4 days a week because we're being flexible. It could be 3 or 4 days, 2 hours. All right. If it's really important and really involved and the deadline's sooner, you might want to allot more time or work on it twice. But for me, 2 hours blocks are the most productive. And after that, you take a break, whether it's 10 minutes or half an hour to do something else. You know, one of the smaller tasks that we've got. Have a cup of tea, have lunch, come back to it later. So I try not to work any longer than 2 hours without a break on one thing. It keeps me really focused on that one thing when I am doing that. So let's say we've got correspondence and I'm going to allot half an hour for that to go over a little bit. And at 10 o'clock, we're going to start Project D, right, which we're going to go through to 12 o'clock. And that's why we also need an eraser because I put 2.5 hours there. There we are. Another reason to do it all in pencil because things can change. Someone can phone and say, I absolutely have to meet at 11 o'clock, or I have a text here, can you get this done by 10:30? Something like that. So we do have to be flexible. So, just like the famous general said, you always go into battle with a plan, but be prepared to change it, because no battle plan survives contact with the enemy. But here what we're doing, we're not making this our enemy, we're making it our friend. Well, may I say that? This is a very funny, informal, chatty video, and I hope you like it this time. So now we're working 2 hours on a project that we've got a deadline on, which we need to put 2 hours of work in. And for that project, we probably have a notebook, and it will be open to what we're doing on that. And in that notebook, we'll also keep either a smaller little notepad or piece of paper, sticky notes. So at the end of that 2 hours, we're going to write what we've done, where we are in that project, and what we're going to do next. Take that sticky note or that notebook, your progress notebook, stick it on that folder, close it up. The next time you get that project out, open it up and you know exactly where you are, what things you need to do. So the more things that are on your agenda, the more you should take notes, because it helps you so much, especially if you're like me and your brain's full of squirrels and you go from one thing to another. The notes will help remind you. So our morning's taken care of, and we've got a little bit of time here. Let's just put lunch in there. That's half an hour before our half-hour slot before our meeting, but because we're home and we're going to be online, we know we can probably spend, a little bit more than half an hour for lunch, but usually don't spend that much if I'm at home. So just kind of squeeze that in there. And that half hour's time here gives us time for that. And then we've got a meeting, and a half hour after that. That's a pretty full morning. So we probably would want to take a break at some point after the meeting. So I'm going to put break here. Tea, could be a snack, could be a walk, depending on the weather. Just a little break, half an hour. Now we've got the afternoon. We've done a lot of the hard work here. So we could do some of these small tasks in the afternoon. We do have our finance to do. Maybe we should get that out of the way. So we'll put an hour for that. It probably won't take an hour, but we'll allot an hour for that. Then we'll have another break at 4 o'clock, tea. And at this time of year, I think that's going to be getting dark. So we're going to say put away our Christmas decorations. And that's the end of our scheduled time that day. And I think the key here is not trying to pack in too much. If you have evening meetings or things happening in the evening, which I often do, I try to schedule big gapping breaks between them, because the evening, especially in the winter when it's dark, it's very hard to be super active. You want to allow yourself the time, because you want your brain to be sharp for everything you're in. So we've taken care of that and that for the week. And now we've got Tuesday. Tuesday is going to be our less rigid sort of day. Now we've got a course that we want to do, probably an hour here and there. So we're going to start again. There's Mr. Dog's claws across the floor. We're going to start at 9 with our correspondence. And again, there might be very little of it, there might be more of it. I think half an hour there is enough. And because we've done so much on Monday, let's say that half hour is going to be enough, and we can go right on to the next thing there, which will be, let's say, our fun course. and we can do that for an hour. That gives us a tea break at 10:30. And today we want to take care of the garden, and we've also got a project that we want to address. But here we have to travel somewhere for a meeting. We want to make sure we're prepared for that, dressed properly, got all your materials together, travel time, all of that sort of thing. Maybe you have errands to do, some shopping. So let's allow plenty of time before that meeting for this. And that gives us probably about an hour there that we might be able to get something short done. So I'm going to say let's do some gardening after tea. After we've been in the garden, then we can take our time getting ready, traveling to this meeting, getting some shopping done, on the way to it, around it, something like that. There's a little flexibility there. So we've got our gardening done, because these are our short tasks. And we need to prepare for something. If I had to prepare for this meeting, I probably would have done that on Monday or allotted some time earlier. We don't want to do that right beforehand. But we'll say we don't have to prepare for that. That's a lunch meeting. Very relaxed on Tuesday. And we probably want to spend a little bit of time on our Project A. So when we get back, let's say we're going to have tea a little bit early at 3:30. Have tea, and that way by 4:30 we're going to work on our... My dog's on the microphone at the moment, on one of the microphone legs. So we're getting a little bit of jiggling here. Hopefully he won't be on the camera. So we're working on Project A, and we've got, let's say we're working on B thing, this little B task. And we can get that done in about an hour and a half. That puts us to 6 o'clock. And that's all we're going to do on Tuesday. So there we've made a rough schedule, but we're not finished. There's a rough schedule for Monday and Tuesday, but something might change and we have to be flexible. The key is that we've allotted lots of time on either side of these tasks and projects. It gives us lots of time flexibility, but also allows the thinking process to develop at a good steady pace. And if you have to cancel something, so somebody calls and say, okay, well, I have to finish the gardening, or I can't take tea, I'll take tea at the same time I'm doing garden, so it'll be a break or something like that. If you have to deal with an email that's just come in and it's outside of your correspondence time, you might want to allot a time every day for doing that, say 3 o'clock. Every day at 3 o'clock you can check and see if you've got any important emails, or if something just came in, you have to drop everything. You've got some flexibility there that you can just fit something in. And that gives you a little bit of an idea of scheduling things. And that to me looks like a pretty busy schedule. But because my weeks are varied, I'll have some days that are very busy and other days that aren't. And I find I function quite well like that. Some people like to have lots of busy days in a row and then a couple days off. Other people like to scatter it throughout and have a somewhat busy day every day. It just depends. You have to work with it and find out how you work best, and that's the key. You need to know how you work best, what makes you most productive. And if you have to schedule breaks, absolutely do it. And this also gives you an idea of what these big tasks are that are feasible. So you have an idea of how much time you actually can allot to something, and whether you can say, okay, that deadline will work, or I'm going to need more time for that. Yeah. And also scheduling things like this, I always allot more time than I know it's going to take. It keeps a really good rhythm. And if something happens outside of these projects and tasks, something that's upsetting, well, life does that to us, something that makes you feel depressed, or there's a problem you're dealing with, whether it's personal, family, or just general stress, having a schedule actually helps you. If you're in a funk and you're waking up every day saying, how am I going to get through this day? I feel so bad, or I'm so lost, what am I going to do? You've got your schedule. So no matter how bad you feel about something, you keep moving forward little bit by little bit. And that's one way of showing yourself that you respect yourself, that you're going to take care of yourself. You get up, you get dressed, look presentable, look at yourself in the mirror and smile, feed yourself, and do the tasks. And before you know it, everything will be alright, because nothing is beyond us, and you're never alone. So I hope you've enjoyed the sounds, the wind, and the pencils, the writing. And if it's been some help, let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, do let me know. If there's something different that you do for your scheduling, time management, I'd love to hear about that too. Have a really beautiful week, everyone. I look forward to seeing you again in the study anytime. I'm always here. Be good to yourself, my friend. Be kind to others. And, as always, be extraordinary.